Imagine losing $2 billion. Not because you made some catastrophic investment,
Right.
and not because a competitor outsmarted you or your legal team got outmaneuvered in front of a jury. You lost $2 billion because, well, your IT guy couldn't find an old backup tape.
Which is exactly what happened to Morgan Stanley back in 2005.
Yeah, the Morgan Stanley case.
Right. The judge was just so appalled by their inability to produce these requested emails that she issued an adverse inference instruction. So the jury was basically told to, assume the company was hiding a smoking gun.
Wow. And when a court tells a jury that they can assume you intentionally destroyed evidence to cover your tracks,
It's game over.
yeah, recovering from that is nearly impossible. So, welcome to the invisible high-stakes battleground of eDiscovery. The margins for error here are just terrifyingly thin, and the market surrounding it is exploding.
Oh, absolutely.
We are looking at an industry that hit nearly $17 billion in 2024 and is barreling toward like $25 billion by 2029.
Yeah, and those billions, they really reflect an industry that's frantically trying to manage risk. Electronic discovery isn't just sending a dozen junior associates into a dusty warehouse with highlighters anymore.
No, those days are long gone.
We're dealing with this intensely complex intersection of data science, forensic engineering, and civil law. The federal rules of civil procedure govern all of this, specifically the rules around intent to deprive, which is that exact trap Morgan Stanley fell into, and proportionality.
Right, proportionality, the idea that you only have to produce data that is proportional to the needs of the case. Like, you don't boil the ocean for a $10,000 contract dispute.
Exactly.
So for this deep dive, our mission is navigating that exact tension. We're looking at a stack of industry analyses, case studies, and vendor breakdowns to give you, the listener, a definitive framework for selecting your first eDiscovery partner.
Which is a huge step for any legal team.
It really is.
Yeah.
We want to help you map out your internal resources, decode the vendor landscape, and really look under the hood of their AI so you don't accidentally walk your legal team into a sanctions trap.
And, a really good place to start that assessment is looking at why internal IT departments usually fail at this.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the IT teams.
Because the instinct for a lot of in-house counsel is to try and keep costs down by keeping the data collection internal. An attorney just fires off an email asking the network admins to pull all communications between two executives from, say, 2021 to 2023.
Which sounds like a simple search query, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine it sends a chill down the spine of an IT director.
It is an absolute operational nightmare.
Really? Why is it so bad?
Well, corporate backup systems, like LTO tape drives, they're engineered for disaster recovery, not granular search. They take these massive snapshots of an entire server architecture just to protect against a catastrophic crash or, like, a ransomware attack.
Yeah.
So if a server dies on Tuesday, they can rebuild it exactly as it looked on Monday. But they do not index individual emails or files for easy retrieval years later.
So it's not like just searching your Gmail.
Not at all.
It's more like trying to find a specific transaction in a decade's worth of printed bank statements, but you have to melt down the paper, repulp it, and reprint the entire archive just to look at one page.
That's exactly it.
Wait, let's look at the actual mechanics of what the IT team has to do to execute that one attorney's request.
Okay, so to get those 3 years of emails, the IT department has to physically mount a tape, restore the entire email server environment to an alternate piece of hardware, boot it all up, run the search, extract those specific files, and then shut it down.
Good grief.
And it gets worse. If the company uses weekly differential backups, they have to repeat that complete environment rebuild 52 times just to cover one single year of data.
That is just absurd. It's like asking your mechanic to find a single missing French fry that fell into your car seat 5 years ago. And they have to completely rebuild the car from scratch 52 times just to look for it.
It's a great analogy. And keep in mind, IT departments are usually running incredibly lean as it is.
Oh, for sure.
They're fighting daily fires, patching security vulnerabilities, basically just keeping the lights on. Handing them a manual extraction project of that scale practically guarantees something is going to be missed.
And missing a file is exactly how you end up staring down an angry judge.
Exactly. Plus, the scope of what actually constitutes a document has fundamentally changed. We aren't just talking about Microsoft Exchange servers anymore.
Right. The sources highlight this incredibly complex international case. It involved a dispute between Chinese, American, and Brazilian corporate entities.
Yeah, that WeChat case.
Yes. The entire life cycle of the deal, all the contracts, the negotiations, the ultimate fallout, none of it happened over email. It all happened on WeChat.
And trying to capture WeChat data involves completely different physics compared to pulling from a occulted server.
Because you're dealing with ephemeral messaging, right?
Yeah. Ephemeral messaging, encrypted local devices, weird cloud architecture. It also brings in all these cross-border data privacy complications.
Oh, like where the data actually lives.
Exactly. With an app like WeChat, some data resides on the physical handset, and some might be cached on servers in jurisdictions with strict data localization laws, like China's Personal Information Protection Law.
Wow.
So the moment you try to forensically extract a WhatsApp or WeChat history from a cracked cell phone, you're dealing with encryption protocols that an internal corporate IT team just does not have the tools to break.
Let alone authenticated for a proper chain of custody.
Right, it's totally outside their wheelhouse.
Okay, so if dropping this on our internal IT team is a recipe for a sanctions disaster, the only logical move is going outside.
You have to.
But staring down a $17 billion market feels like looking at a menu in a foreign language.
Right.
I mean, how do we even categorize what these vendors are actually selling?
Well, you have to map their operational models to your internal bandwidth. Broadly speaking, the market is divided into 3 tiers. The first tier is your software and platform providers. They're just selling you a license to their proprietary review technology.
So it's kind of like leasing a state-of-the-art operating room. The vendor gives you the sterile environment, the monitors, the surgical tools, but you still have to bring your own world-class surgeons to actually perform the operation.
That is a perfect way to look at it. If your law firm or your corporate department already employs dedicated litigation support project managers, data processing engineers, and a whole bench of review attorneys, you just need the software.
Right, you don't need them to manage the workflow.
Exactly. But if your team is already underwater, you need to look at the second tier, which is managed services providers, or MSPs.
Okay, so how does an MSP shift the burden?
They provide the software, but they also provide the technical personnel to drive it. Their engineers handle all the data ingestion, they set up the search parameters, they format the production deliverables. They manage the heavy lifting of the technical workflow, leaving your internal attorneys to just focus on the legal reading and coding of the documents.
Which brings us to the final tier, and I found this fascinating in the source material: full service or end-to-end providers. The sources note that one of these companies, S2 Data, literally purchased a former bank and operates out of the reinforced vault to securely store their clients' legacy backup tapes.
Yeah, that's a real thing. They handle the entire life cycle.
From the literal bank vault.
Yeah, from deploying forensic examiners to image cell phones on site to restoring those tapes in the vault, hosting the data, and supplying teams of contract attorneys to review every single document.
So you're entirely outsourcing the operational risk.
Everything.
But I look at that end-to-end model, and I have to ask, if a vendor can take away all the headache, handle the forensics, and lock the data in a vault, why wouldn't a general counsel just default to that option every single time?
That's a great question.
I mean, why even bother with the first 2 tiers?
Because of the federal rules of civil procedure we mentioned earlier, specifically that rule of proportionality, bringing in a massive end-to-end provider with a forensic SWAT team and vault storage comes with a massive premium price tag.
Oh, right. The budget.
Yeah. If you're dealing with a localized, straightforward employment dispute involving maybe a few gigabytes of email, deploying that tier of vendor is entirely disproportionate to the risk of the case. The court won't force the opposing side to share those costs, and your client is going to absolutely balk at the invoice.
Right, so you have to fit the vendor to the scale of the crisis. Okay, so once we've aligned the model with our internal resources, we have to evaluate the actual technology underneath. Because you really can't just trust a slick marketing brochure.
Oh, definitely not.
Especially when every vendor is currently slapping the word AI onto their website to see what sticks.
Yeah, the technological arms race in eDiscovery right now is staggering.
Yep.
We moved away from linear review, which is humans reading every single page years ago.
Thank goodness.
Right. The industry adopted technology-assisted review, specifically continuous active learning, or CAL.
Now, for the listener who knows the acronym but maybe hasn't looked at the math behind it, how does CAL actually function under the hood? It's not just keyword searching, right?
Far from it. It utilizes vector space mathematics.
Okay, say more about that.
Imagine a multidimensional map where documents are plotted as data points. Documents with similar language and conceptual clustering are grouped closer together on this map.
Like little galaxies of related topics.
Exactly. When your senior attorneys begin reviewing a sample set of documents, coding them as relevant or not relevant, the algorithm learns from their decisions.
Okay.
It analyzes the vector space and starts actively pushing unreviewed, conceptually similar documents right to the front of the review queue.
So instead of reviewing 100,000 documents sequentially, the machine weights the attorney's decisions and surfaces the most dangerous material first.
Yes, and that can potentially cut the required human review down by massive percentages. But now, the sources indicate we're moving beyond CAL into the era of generative AI.
Gen AI, the big buzzword.
Gen AI is highly disruptive here. It goes way beyond clustering. It can actually synthesize information.
Wow.
It can auto-generate document summaries, identify really complex privilege issues, and redact personally identifiable information at scale.
Which sounds like a dream.
It is. The projected cost savings are enormous, sometimes having the overall review budget. But the risk of Gen AI in a legal setting is severe due to its tendency to hallucinate.
Okay, let's drill into that because hallucination sounds like a quirky software bug, but in a legal context, it's a total disaster.
It's terrifying.
Why do large language models actually hallucinate?
Well, LLMs do not know facts or comprehend legal nuances. They're basically incredibly sophisticated token predictors.
Just guessing the next word.
Exactly. They analyze the statistical probability of which word should follow the next based on their training data. So if you ask an LLM to summarize a highly complex chain of emails regarding a specific patent dispute, it might connect dots that do not actually exist, simply because those connections are statistically probable in its language model.
Oh, man. So it can invent a smoking gun out of thin air.
It can. Or, conversely, it can summarize a highly privileged communication as totally benign.
Which is almost worse. Because if it hallucinates on a privilege log, and you accidentally hand over a sensitive communication to opposing counsel just because the AI said it was safe, you can waive attorney-client privilege entirely.
And the fallout from that is career-ending.
Yeah, how do we defend against that when we're vetting a vendor's AI tools?
You demand to see their validation metrics. You absolutely cannot accept a vendor just saying their AI is highly accurate.
Because what does that even mean? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You need statistical proof, specifically looking at their protocols for precision, recall, and illusion testing.
Okay, break down the mechanics of those three metrics for us.
So recall measures completeness. It is the percentage of all the truly relevant documents in the universe that the AI actually managed to find.
Okay, completeness.
Right. Precision measures accuracy. Of the documents the AI claimed were relevant, what percentage actually were relevant?
Ah, got it. So if the AI flags 10,000 documents, but only 1,000 are actually useful, the precision is terrible.
Exactly. And you just wasted a ton of money having humans review false positive.
And illusion testing is the safety net, right?
It is the most critical step. Illusion testing requires taking a statistically significant random sample from the discard pile.
The digital trash can.
Yeah, the documents the AI determined were entirely irrelevant, and having a human subject matter expert review them. You are verifying the null set to ensure the AI didn't hallucinate and bury the actual smoking gun.
Testing the discard pile is brilliant. It forces the vendor to prove a negative.
It really does.
So I want to pivot to another area where marketing brochures often hide the truth. Data security. Because if I go to a vendor's website and I see a shiny badge boasting military-grade encryption, that feels like a totally meaningless buzzword to me.
Oh, it is entirely meaningless.
Right.
In this space, you look for rigorous, independent third-party audits. The baseline requirement is a SOC2 report, but you have to specifically demand a SOC2 Type 2 report, not a Type 1.
Wait, what is the practical difference between a Type I and a Type 2?
The Type I report is just a snapshot. It simply states that on a specific date, the vendor's security design looked adequate.
Like taking a photo of a clean room.
Exactly. A Type 2 report is an attestation that those security controls operated effectively over a prolonged period of time, usually like 6 to 12 months. It proves they don't just know how to build a secure system, they maintain it every single day.
Now, I noticed in the sources there's a huge caveat here. You can't just ask the vendor for the auditor's summary letter or a certificate, right? You have to ask for the full unabridged report.
Yes, because of scope exceptions. A vendor might proudly display a SOC2 Type 2 certification, but when you read the actual auditor's report, you discover the certification only covers their internal corporate HR systems.
You're kidding.
No, and it completely excludes the cloud platform where your highly sensitive litigation data will actually be hosted.
That is incredibly deceptive.
It happens way more often than you'd think. You also want to check for ISO 2701, which is a formal international certification of their overall information security management system.
Got it.
Combining that with a fully scoped SOC2 Type 2 ensures the vendor treats data security as a culture, not just a checklist.
Which brings us to the most practical part of this deep dive. We understand the models, we know how to interrogate their AI, and we know how to verify their security. Now we need an actionable scoring rubric to actually stack these vendors against each other.
Let's do it.
Let's start with pricing transparency, because the way this industry handles billing can be a total minefield.
Historically, pricing was really punitive. Decades ago, you might pay $5,000 to process a single gigabyte of data.
Wow.
Yeah. Today, thanks to cloud computing, you can find processing costs well under $100 a gigabyte. But the trap lies in how the vendor actually measures that gigabyte.
Oh, this goes to the concept of data expansion, right? Because a gigabyte is not a static measurement in eDiscovery.
Not at all. When a vendor ingests a zip file from your client, it might weigh exactly 1 gigabyte. But during processing, the software unpacks that file, it extracts the hidden metadata, it pulls out embedded OLE objects.
Like an Excel spreadsheet buried inside a PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly. And it expands compressed system files so that initial gigabyte can easily expand to 3, 5, or even 10 gigabytes of data once fully processed for review.
So if your vendor agreement isn't incredibly precise, your invoice for processing 100 gigabytes just quietly turned into a bill for a terabyte.
Yes. Your rubric must ask explicitly, do you bill based on the pre-processing ingest volume or the post-processing expanded volume?
And if they charge based on the expanded data coming out.
You are going to get an unpredictable and highly unpleasant surprise on your first invoice.
So, score them on transparency. Next on the rubric is communication and project management. This can sound like a soft skill, but the sources point out this is often where massive reviews just jump the tracks.
Oh, it's critical. The fastest way to identify a poorly managed vendor is to look for the all-in email address.
I hate those.
Some vendors set up a single distribution email where 20 different technicians, project managers, and client attorneys are all CC'd on every single communication.
It just creates a massive bystander effect.
Exactly the problem. When an associate emails a critical question about a search term syntax, 20 people receive it, and everyone assumes someone else is handling it, their request just gets buried.
So a high-scoring vendor provides a dedicated, named project manager.
Right, someone who assigns explicit tasks and maintains an incident log.
There's also a metric we can use to grade their communication during the actual legal review, right? The overturn rate.
Yes. During the quality control phase, senior attorneys review a statistical sample of the coding decisions made by the first-pass junior reviewers.
Okay.
If those senior attorneys are constantly having to overturn the initial decisions, like changing documents marked relevant to not relevant, it signals a catastrophic breakdown in communication.
Because it usually means the coding manual created by the vendor's project managers was ambiguous or poorly drafted.
Exactly. If the reviewers don't understand the parameters of the case, the overturn rate skyrockets, and the client essentially pays to have the exact same documents reviewed twice.
Ouch. Okay, the third pillar of your scoring rubric should be innovation. You have to ask the vendor, what proactive strategies will you bring to our data?
You definitely want to avoid the order takers.
Right. If a vendor just waits for your outside counsel to hand them a list of search terms, runs the search, and hands the data back, they get a low score.
You need a strategic partner. A high-scoring vendor will analyze your data landscape and boldly suggest workflows. They should be the ones to say, based on the density of this data set, if we deploy continuous active learning right now, our models predict we can reduce the human review volume by 70%.
They should be actively looking for ways to cannibalize their own billable hours to save you money.
Exactly. That's a real partner.
The final piece of the rubric is an excellent pro tip from the sources, the 360-degree review. Because you can't evaluate these vendors in an internal corporate vacuum.
You really can't. You must ask your outside counsel to score the vendors alongside you.
Because they're the ones in the trenches.
Right. The law firm partners and associates are the ones actually logging into the review platforms. They're the ones interacting with the vendor's project managers when a production deadline is looming at 2 in the morning on a Sunday.
They know which vendors are responsive and which ones drop the ball when the pressure really spikes.
Synthesizing all of this,
We're really talking about a fundamental philosophical shift in how legal teams view e-discovery. It's no longer just a defensive posture. It isn't just about risk mitigation and hoping your IT department doesn't lose a backup tape.
No. When you execute this correctly, when you match the vendor model to your internal bandwidth, aggressively validate their AI against hallucinations, demand rigorous security audits, and hold them to a strict scoring rubric, eDiscovery actually becomes an offensive weapon.
You transform a sunk administrative cost into a strategic legal advantage.
Exactly. With a scientifically validated methodology, you don't just defend against adverse inferences, you proactively uncover the insights your opposing counsel missed.
You use their AI tools to build a stronger narrative faster than the other side can even keep up.
It gives you the confidence to stand before a judge and mathematically prove that you have met your obligations, shifting the burden of proof entirely onto your opponent. Which brings us to a final, slightly unsettling thought to leave you with. We spent a lot of time analyzing how to extract old data, like emails and text messages, out of legacy systems and mobile phones.
Yeah, looking backward.
Right, but think about the trajectory we're on. With the explosive integration of generative AI directly into modern corporate workflows, the very definition of a document is changing right before our eyes.
We are definitely moving past user-generated content.
Entirely. How long until eDiscovery isn't just about finding a memo a human typed out? How long until your legal team is tasked with forensically tracking down the exact AI prompts an employee used to generate a faulty contract? Or tracing the lineage of a piece of stolen code generated by an LLM?
Wow.
The data landscape is mutating from human communications to algorithmic interactions. The real question is the vendor you choose today architected to handle the data of tomorrow?
It is a profound shift. The vendors who are just coasting on legacy software will not survive that transition.
So evaluate your partners rigorously. Don't let your data become a liability you can't explain. Until next time.